Well, we are at 7 o'clock, so we will go ahead and start. Welcome, everybody. This is the beach survey training. And so this is required for all new volunteers, and it's also a wonderful refresher for any of our seasoned volunteers because we do share some tips and tricks. So we're really happy that you're all here tonight, and we are excited to get this season started. And we hope that everybody has a good time. So I will start with our land acknowledgement. As a group, we recognize that we are residing on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people. These tribes have lived on and cared for the land and water since time immemorial. We respect and honor all Indigenous people and acknowledge our responsibility to learn the truth about history, support tribal sovereignty and livelihoods, and act towards inclusion, partnership, uplifting Native communities, and continuing their legacy of stewardship. Okay, so before we start our beach survey training, I just wanted to give everybody sort of a whirl through our website and introduce everybody to the website, because I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with it or aware of how to access survey support and training materials. So I'm going to take you there now. And let's see. Whoops, I apologize. It's hiding behind my Zoom screen. Are you guys still looking at my PowerPoint? No, there it is. Okay. Hopefully we're on the right one. Okay. No, I'm on the wrong one. Here it is. Okay, are you guys looking at the website?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. So the website is pigeonguillemot.org. And this is the home page here. And I just wanted to show you a few things. The most important thing is the survey toolbox as far as support materials for the survey. But I'm going to show you a few other things on here first, because I think it might help answer some of the questions that you might have. We do frequently get questions. One of the most frequently asked is, how is our data used? So we do have a tab on our website, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but I just wanted to show it to you. This talks about who's using our data, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, University of Washington, other students who are working on papers, the Puget Sound Partnership, just to give some examples. And then I also want to show you, so as the season goes along, I'm going to be doing sort of a blog style weekly survey update. You can see here I've added things that are coming up, like International Guillemot Appreciation Day. Here's where our virtual training is. But if you toggle down here, you'll see this weekly survey updates. And there's nothing here yet, but once the season starts, every week I will be posting highlights from the week, any particular information that we want to share with folks. And then I always try to share lots of photos from around the regions. We have some amazing photographers, and they're able to capture some really cool stuff. You can also look at past happenings, and I have the weekly survey updates from previous years. So if you want to check out what was happening last year, you can go to this weekly survey update here.
Did I just do it?
So there's a lot to read and lots of pictures to look at, but it's a resource too if you want to see, like, check a particular week of the season and see what was happening in it and compare that to what's happening this season. That's one thing you can do. We also have a page for our data analyses. And so this is from last season. So you can browse this and check out, in case you missed our end of the year celebration last year, you can check out our data analyses here. And then this is what I really want to show you for today, is our survey toolbox. So a lot of times folks write in asking, where can I find the data sheet or where can I find the protocol? This is where you're going to go. And this page has the most recent versions of our survey protocol and beach data sheet. So if you toggle down here, you can see the survey protocol is here, the beach data sheet. You can also find that by clicking here. Prey fish ID card. And then down here, we've got our burrows not visible data sheet, which we will talk about a little bit later in the training. But yeah, there are just a lot of support materials here. If you ever have a question about anything regarding the survey, you'll probably find the answer in here. And if you can't, then of course, feel free to reach out to us or reach out to your regional lead, and they can help you answer those questions. We also up here have data system training and survey training videos. So if you haven't already watched the videos, we do have 6 videos here. This one is from last season. So after we're finished recording this one, I will replace number 6 with this current year's training. So we'll put it there. But these are the 5 videos that you'll want to watch as part of this training if you haven't done so already. Let's go back in here. And then for the folks that are doing data entry and data system training, you can access those materials by clicking this link. And again, we have some videos that you can watch and some instructional forms. So I just wanted to show everyone that. And then I'm very briefly going to talk about dead or sick birds on the beach and what to do. This is a question that we were asked last year. Of course, bird flu has been going around, and last year there was quite a large outbreak with the terns up in East Jefferson County. And so we got some guidance from Katie Heyman, and I've compiled instructions here that you can check out. I'm not going to go into this in great detail. And Katie did also email me today to say that they're going to implement some prioritization steps, just because funding is not going to be as robust as it was last season for sample collection. So I will be updating this shortly after I have a chance to talk to Katie and get some guidance on how we should prioritize collecting birds. But I just wanted to show you this because we are out on the beach a lot and we may come across dead bird carcasses. The most important thing is Katie would like us to report anything we find to WDFW. And so you can either do that by contacting Katie. Here's her email address here, or you can also go to the state's reporting page. All right, so I am going to hand this over to Govinda, and we're going to start our regular beach survey training now. Govinda, take it away.
Birds. Beach. Great.
You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. You can hear me now?
Oh, there you are.
Okay. All right. Very good. So just before I start the presentation, I just have a few slides. I want to talk about what Francis would always say, to act like a piece of driftwood and look like a piece of driftwood. So I'm wearing my grays today to match the clouds out there. And so, you know, like, here's our street dance shirt. This is great for roadside pickup and the street dances that we have here on Whidbey Island, but it's not good for the survey. So we want to look like sand. We want to look like driftwood, grays, greens, earth tones. What I ended up buying last year was just a gray scarf to put over. I didn't realize, but it was actually insect shield. So it was it was a double bonus because all those little gnats, you know, the early beach hours was great. I actually bought it just to keep the sun off my skin, but this works too. So just no loud colors. We want to just blend in and make it easy for the guillemots to continue their breeding behavior. Okay, so I do have a presentation here, and I will start that. So here we are. Okay, 2025, and my name is Govinda. I am a volunteer here on Whidbey Island, and this is actually my 16th year surveying and with the group. So I know we have a lot of new people this year, so I just want to welcome you to the crazy PG club. You'll never leave. It's you can't stop once you begin. It's very addicting. So we're gonna start off here with our beach data sheet, and it's new this year.
Oh,
And we will start with our first page, and we're just gonna like type in a little mock survey. And you know, I'm just gonna pause really quick because I have profiles stuck in the middle of my screen and I can't see what I'm typing in. So let me get back to this. Okay, so we'll start again. Okay, brand new for 2025. You know, each year we try and make it even better than the year before. So we've added some examples and tried to really streamline it to what you would see in the survey 123. So it kind of matches up a little better. Okay, so page 1 for our mock survey, colony name. I'm at Double Bluff. Survey date for us here on Whidbey Island, our week 1 survey date is the week of June 2nd. Double Bluff, we always survey on Fridays, so it's going to be on the 6th. Start time 8 o'clock, and that is the absolutely latest that we want you to start because we want you to finish no later than 9 o'clock. So 1 hour survey, start at 8 or before. I will say that back in the day, we did kind of a different survey where I was on the beach for 5 hours and I would show up at 6 a.m. and there was so much activity at sunrise. So if you really want to see it happening, the earlier the better, but it's up to you and your group. So, and then they just kind of, you know, trail off as the day goes on. Of course, tides, you know, have an issue too. If it's a higher tide, they'll be more active than a lower tide, but just saying. So 8 o'clock for us, and survey week is week 1. Okay. Team lead. Our team lead is Michelle Sakaguchi, and our observers, myself and Earl E. Bird. I'm a sub this year, and if Michelle were surveying with us, we would type her name in the observers. But the reason why I'm there is because Michelle is gone for the week, and so I'm filling in. But do add your team lead if they are present. If not, just on that top line. Okay, as for tides, whatever app works best or website works best for you guys. So far, knock wood, NOAA has been really good. And here at 8 o'clock, we can see our tide is about a 1.5-ish. And it is a positive tide, so we're going to circle the plus. However, it is on its way out, so it is an outgoing tide. Okay? Bam. Now, our next box is the Paigu counts. Now, these are 3 point-in-time counts, and we want to emphasize that it's not a contest. We don't want to try and count every black dot that's out there. We just want just a snapshot of what is happening on the beach at the start, the middle, and the end of your 1-hour survey. So we want the guillemots that are close in and sort of associated with the colony. So at 8 o'clock, we'll start our 3 point in time counts. And I usually start just a sweep with my binoculars. You know, if it's a windy day, you go a little slower because you have to, you know, the waves, the guillemots kind of hide in between the waves. And so for here, our first point in time count, which is at 8 o'clock, is at 18 guillemots out in the water. Okay. Our middle, which would be at 8:30, we have 12 pigeon guillemots. And then the end, which would be exactly at 9 o'clock, we have just 2 guillemots. As for volunteer time, I've got a breakdown of what it may look like. And we have our travel time. So 1 hour return, you know, round trip, half hour there, half hour back. Our half hour settling in time, that's getting out of the car, putting on your rain pants because it's January after all, walking down on the beach, settling in, getting your chair, getting your eye drops, your cocoa, you know, your binoculars, your sheet, everything. And then of course the 1 hour survey, and then 0.25, 15 minutes worth of data entry. These are in 15-minute intervals. It may only take me 8 minutes, but round up to 15. Okay, so that's my hours of volunteer time for that day. And Earl, for instance, he lives farther away, so he's an hour and a half round trip. Of course, the half hour settling in time. Last but not least, the 1 hour survey. And then we added up to 5.75. Okay, and as for disturbances, we have a sample right here, and this is how we can read this. So at 8:48, we see a walker with dog, and the explanation is PGs flew out beyond the kelp and stayed there beyond the survey end. So we ask that you type in, write in your best handwriting, of course, when the disturbance begins, and if the disturbance ends before the survey ends or not before the survey ends. So in this instance, because we started our survey at 8 o'clock, the disturbance is continuing beyond the survey ending. So we put 9 o'clock because that's when the eyes, you know, that's when we pack up and leave the beach. And we put a letter N for no or never, that the disturbance keeps going on. I do have another example here to help with this, and that is at 8:20, and we'll type in our explanation. Under other cause, a red-tailed hawk cruise along the bluffs, which does happen, and PGs scatter out in the water. Now, in this instance, the PGs come back 8 minutes later. And not all of them, but at least 40%. So, you know, about half of them are kind of returning back to, you know, normal behavior. And so in here we put 8:28, 8:28, 8 minutes later, they come back, and the letter Y, because the disturbance ended as a yes before the survey ended. And we just want to say, like, you know, it's hard out in the field, and you know, maybe a clipboard might help, but just put it in your best handwriting, or when you're typing into, you know, survey 1, 2, 3, make sure your spell checks are in order, because we've gotten a lot of retail hawks and not red-tail hawks. So we don't want those. Just, you know, that's how this survey is great, with that rigor, and it's a model survey for community science, that we cross our T's, we dot our I's, and we don't allow any retail hawks, red tails. Okay. And then down here at the very bottom, which we will not be checking because our next page will have some mock visits and deliveries. There is a box for you to check if there were no deliveries. Okay. And I'll take this moment to remind everybody to mute themselves. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, page 2. So once again, our colony name, Double Bluff, our survey date at 6/6, and our survey is week 1. And here is our examples written here in this salmon color. So we see A1 is the borough ID, and our visit is at 8:10. And this is an actual disappearance into the bluff. This isn't a ledge sit. This means the Pigeon Guillemot flies into the borough and disappears. That is the visit. Okay, next down the timeline, we see at 8:15, a Guillemot brings in a gunnel, and I have some prey examples here in the lower left. And then next, another visit to the borough. 8:37, another gunnel, and then 8:46, sculpin. Some other, another couple of borough examples could be borough C2, 8:11, a gunnel goes in, B6, which can be another borough, at 8:12, a sculpin, 8:19, another visit to the borough, which again disappears inside. And so you don't see the Guillemot, none of this ledge sitting, because they do that, but it actually goes into the borough. 8:12, 8:31, another visit, and then 8:40, another gunnel at C2. And at this point, what we are really looking for on our borough identification is alphanumeric. So either a letter or a number or a combination of both that you see up above. What we don't want, and I have some examples, D6. Definitely not. We don't want any special characters like these stroke or dashes. Number 28, no hashtags, no. And number 2D, we want capital letters and numbers only. And you can have 3 slots or codons. So it could be A12, but not number 2D. So, and then lastly, certainly not borough next to the stairs, even though that's what the borough may be, but give it a number or a letter or both. Okay. Let's see. And then of course we have borough notes at the bottom. So if you want to write in like foggy day, super windy, you can do that too. And then lastly, we do want you to enter this survey if you're the data entry person within 1 week of the survey. So for me, that would be my job on 6/6 is the survey, and I would need to enter that in by lucky Friday the 13th the next week. Okay. Like Shannon mentioned, Guillemot Appreciation Day is just around the corner. Friday, June 27th at Ottenhunter Winery here on Whidbey Island. Hope you guys can all make it. I know Shannon's going to be there. Francis will be there. I will be there. And many of you who I see here on Zoom will see you there from 3 to 5 p.m. Happy hour, special glass pours. We'll have our data findings. Of course, lots of great Guillemot activities and a fabulous charcuterie that we just make better and better each year. And then next is my last slide. Thank you all, and I will see you on the beach. And then I'm going to pass this back over to Shannon for her non-business visible burrows. So I'm going to stop my share, and Shannon, you
Thank
could
you, Govinda.
over.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so I am going to talk about burrows not visible. And again, this will be really brief because actually this only affects a few people. Oops, we're going to look at that slide again. So we implemented this last season, and right now this is only applying to colonies that are built around structures versus a bluff. And it could also apply to, say, rocky cliffs, but at the moment we only have this applying to structures. So like the Hood Canal Bridge or a pier, or maybe the ferry docks. And the reason behind this protocol is that with these particular structures, we can't always see exactly where the birds are going. And we can't always tell if where they are sitting up in the structure is actually a burrow or represents an attempt to breed. They could just be kind of loafing around up in there or socializing. It's really hard for us to tell. So what we've decided to do is, instead of having unique burrows, all prey deliveries will be added into one burrow, which is called BNV, which is burrows not visible. And probably one of the biggest differences, other than grouping them all into BNB, is that we don't record no prey visits at this type of colony or with this survey type. So it's important that you skip that and you only record prey deliveries. So other than that, the protocol is exactly the same. You're going to write down the time of the delivery and the type of fish. You can see here, this is the second page of our data sheet for this particular survey. And so we're recording the times for sculpin, gunnel, and other unknown. And then if you are able to see exactly where they are going, we ask that you just maybe make a note in the note section. So we're still going to put them all into one burrow. And again, everyone who's doing this type of survey should already know. So if you have a question as to whether or not you're doing it, you're probably just doing our traditional survey. But that being said, if you find that you are having trouble seeing where the birds are going, and this doesn't apply to, say, if you have some vegetation that's slightly obscuring a burrow, but if you really aren't able to see where the birds are going, that's a time when you probably want to get a hold of your regional lead and just say, hey, you know, maybe we might want to consider this burrows not visible protocol. So that is that. And I think we're going to move on to our question and answer session. And I just want to say really quickly, we are having 2 additional trainings that will be centered around data. So data entry and quality control. So we're going to try to save those questions for those trainings. And so tonight we would love to answer any questions that you might have regarding the survey itself and how to do the survey. And then also any questions that you might have, say, about colony assignments or things that are really specific to your region. Those could be directed to your regional leads. So tonight we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about the survey itself, and any tips, tricks, things like that. We would be really happy to answer. So you can either drop something in the chat or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So does anyone have any questions for Govinda or myself? Oh, BNV, yes, it's a different data sheet. And that is in the survey toolbox. It's at the very bottom. And it has a header on the top that says burrows not visible. Let's see. Are we getting funding based on volunteer hours? If so, does tonight count? So that is a good question. Right now, as far as the survey is concerned, we're only tracking hours that you're actually in the survey and doing data entry, things like this. We don't really have a good way region-wide or SSGN-wide to track all of your volunteer hours. So that's something that we kind of leave up to each region. Some regions do record all of those hours that you put in, and I would certainly count these hours. And they are able to report those to funders. So it really depends on the region. I would talk to your regional lead and see if they have a way for you to record the hours, because I would definitely count tonight, and it could be that that's something that could be reported to individual funders. Let's see. Garnet asks, in the past, I've tried to also record when the Pigeon departed the burrow. Is that still information that is useful? Do you want to take this one, Govinda?
Sure. What we're recording is when they enter the burrow. So, I mean, anecdotally, you could write in the comments, but when they depart the burrow, it's too confusing to track both entrance and departure, that we're just asking when they enter the burrow. Although I will say sometimes we'll see a guillemot fly into the burrow with a fish and then fly out of the burrow with a fish. So you definitely, might want to mention that in your comments as not really a food delivery, because the food also left the burrow, for instance.
Right.
But I would say really we just want to record the times of when the guillemots are coming into the burrow.
Right. And I think the one exception to that is if a bird was in the burrow when you arrived, but you didn't see it go in. So maybe the survey starts, and right after the survey starts, you see a bird exit the burrow. I would record that as a no prey visit, because then we know the bird was in the burrow. But other than that, we risk double counting burrow visits, and we don't know if there's another bird in the burrow or not. So if you see it go in, only record in.
Yeah, agreed.
No need to go in out, in out. It gets confusing, and yeah, we want to make sure we're not double counting burrow visits. So let's see. About how many people are usually in a survey team? That's pretty variable and depends on the colony size. So I know some colonies that have one surveyor. Generally, we like people to be paired up, just for safety reasons. And then it's amazing how birds can get by you sometimes. Even if you have one burrow, you blink and they've gone in. So it always helps to have another set of eyes watching.
I agree. I'm at Double Bluff, and that's a large colony, and we have a team of 5, sometimes 6 people. So it really depends on how long and
Right.
how many corners your reach or inlets have.
Right, yeah, especially up north. I know Clallam County at Fort Williams, they have a really long stretch, and then Whidbey also has some really long stretches where I want to say there could be even up to 10 or 12 surveyors at Fort Williams, so they can be quite large teams. Let's see. Oh, please emphasize that the colony lead fills out the final BDS and submits it. So this is normally the case, that the colony lead is also filling out the compiled data sheet. It doesn't always happen that way, but it's almost always true that that person is filling out the compiled data sheet, which makes sense. It makes sense for someone who is part of the survey team and was actually at the survey, watched the action. They're the ones who can best fill out the form. So that's a good point. Thank you, Debbie. Will this recording be available? Yes, it will be available. Probably by tomorrow, if I can get it up on YouTube. It takes some processing and editing time. But I hope I can get it up by tomorrow, and then I can update the website. Let's see, we've got a hand here. Lynn. Let's see, are you able to unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
There we go.
Got it. Okay. I think I'm unmuted.
Oh, a different Lynn.
Different. We've got more than one Lynn.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'll try. I'm a little confused. So is every observer filling out their own data sheet and then someone's compiling it all? Is that how that works?
Right. So and that also depends on the colony size. If you have multiple observation points, each person sitting at each observation point will have their own sheet where they're recording burrow visits to their section. And then every colony is going to have their own way of counting and either adding birds together or taking high counts. And then usually the colony lead is the one who compiles all that into one beach data sheet, which will be submitted into our database.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Let's see, another one from Steve Kaler. I will record joggers as walkers through my anecdotal evidence. Suggest joggers have more impact. That could be true. We'd have to do a study on that.
And I would say, of course, it really depends on the Guillemots too.
Right.
At Mutiny Sands, for instance, they seem pretty habituated with people walking by, whereas another colony like Harrington, all I have to do is just cross my legs and the Guillemots just fly off the water. So
This is true. Right. I found at public beaches, they tend to not be quite as shy about people being around. So yeah, it does depend. In the past, we've counted ledge sits. Do you mean you've counted them as burrow visits, Ricky? Or you've just written them in the notes? Let's see. Are you able to unmute? So with ledge sits, I'll just go ahead and speak to that. We don't count ledge sits as burrow visits. So unless the bird goes into the burrow all the way, we're not counting that as a burrow visit. Sometimes they'll sit just outside the burrow and we don't count that. Sometimes people write a little note, you know, ledge sitting at this burrow, but that would just be in the notes section. But you do not need to count all of the ledge sits. I've seen people attempt to do that. I myself, when I first started, attempted to do that. But at some of the really active colonies, when you have the circus happening and birds are ledge sitting, it's just not possible. And it's really not information that we can track very well or that we can even find, you know, meaning for data wise. So yeah.
and I would add, Francis added a comment that the ledge sits are part of the population.
Oh, yes.
So when you are doing that sweep, don't forget to look behind you.
Yes, that's a good point. And maybe that's what you meant, Ricky, was do we count them as part of the population count? And that's definitely a yes. If you can see them, you count them. If they flew into the burrow and you can no longer see them, then you don't count those birds. Only birds you can see. Let's see. Regarding pig ewes leaving a burrow, I often mention it in my notes upon arrival to cite that several pig ewes flew out of burrows. I do not include that in the burrow data. This is from Brenda Willis. So that's upon arrival.
I would say your survey hasn't started yet because you haven't settled in and gotten your chair and, you know, basically we are the disturbance when we arrive to any Paigu colony, but then you know, put on your gray shawl or your hat and then sit, maybe it of course, depending on the colony, some colonies, are more habituated than others, that it takes a little more settling in time for the Guillemots to kind of, be okay with you there. And then you begin your survey is how I would answer that question.
Right. So it could be important to note which boroughs they're coming out of, just because in the notes section, because then okay, I need to keep a close eye on these boroughs. You know which boroughs are probably active. Can start times be variable between sunrise and 9 a.m. week to week? So they can be variable, but the survey has to end by 9 a.m. So the latest you can actually start a survey is 8 a.m. And that means you actually have to be in place by 7:45 a.m. because you have a 15-minute settling period. So they can be variable up to 7:45 being in your place and ready to start the survey at 8 a.m.
And I did see one question here in the chat about funding.
Thank you.
And I don't think anything comes from Department of Fish and Wildlife. It's all through the Audubon chapters that participate in the survey.
Right. Yes. Each region has their own funding, but Whidbey Audubon in particular takes on the lion's share of supporting SSGN. I will say, though, that DFW does support us with Survey 123, and so they do actually have resources invested in us, and they've helped us quite a bit with developing our protocol and tweaking our database and things like this. So they do have an investment, maybe not direct monetary investment, but let's see. Okay. Oh, yes, this is a good question from Ricky McGee. Can you share what should and should not be included in the notes? This can be unclear for surveyors. That is a really good question.
I would say you definitely want to share any weather that's different, like the wind or heavy fog, something that would maybe be hard to count the PGs here on the island. When it's really foggy at, say, Fort Casey. Bull kelp looks a lot like a pigeon guillemot, so you might want to add in the notes, heavy fog or high winds, for instance.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to note, while we love reading people's notes, sometimes it can be hard because the data sheet has to match what's in the database. And so if you write quite a lot of notes, all of those have to be added to the database or removed from the data sheet. So I think it is really helpful if the notes are concise and if they speak directly to what might hinder your observation of the guillemots, either counting them out on the water or observing their activity. Those would be important things to note. And other things you might consider journaling, writing some.
And I would say, like, if there's something you really want to, get that haiku out there, maybe that's something that Shannon could add on her weekly updates.
Exactly. Yes, I welcome any and all stories, photos, anecdotes, anything you would like to send me, and I'll put my email in here really quick. I love to include those things in my weekly updates. So I will add that to the chat. Please send those to me. I love it. And I love to be able to share those across the region so that folks can see what's happening outside of our little world.
And it's a nice way, often on the beach, we're so isolated. So it's a nice way to connect with those others that are out on the beach in different regions. So I did see something here in the chat chat about the eagles and that the PG numbers will be lower, and that is very true. Sometimes the guillemots will fly off the water and you're looking around for a disturbance. So don't forget to look behind you, and it could very well be that an eagle lands on a tree. And sometimes that eagle will sit there for the entire survey, and that's just how it is. We have to remember that no data is also data. You know, so maybe we just have low numbers on that one survey because the eagle is sitting behind us in the tree.
Right, yeah, those eagles. They are a number one disturbance. Let's see. Are the PICU boxes still being studied at PT Maritime Museum? Are those the ones that are under the pier at the Port Townsend Marine Science Center, Linda? We do have a colony at the
Yes.
Port Townsend Pier. So that's a Burroughs Not Visible colony. So they are surveying that site. But at the moment, I couldn't tell you exactly what the breeding success is in those nest boxes.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so Steve Kaler is suggesting we might want to add weather info to the data form. I believe this is something we've talked about in the past, and we haven't done, but Francis, are you familiar with
Hi,
the reasoning behind
come here.
not adding that to the data sheet?
Yeah, we have found that really it's the tides that are the biggest influence for the data, the activities of the pigeon guillemots. And I think that you would want to include weather if it was a factor influencing the data that you were collecting.
Yeah, such as high wind, which could impact your sweep, you know, those waves to count those guillemots, or high fog, for instance. I'll just add that.
Wendy says she is newly and a sub. Does that mean I'm an actual observer and will be recording, or am I just observing the process and learning for the future? So I would say if you are a sub and you are participating in a survey, then you are also recording if you've been fully trained. So sometimes you might shadow a team at first, but I would say once you're trained, you should also be recording information and giving it to the colony lead so that it can be added to the combined data sheet. Let's see. Steve says he's always wearing several layers of wool. It does get breezy out there and cool in the early mornings. So definitely be prepared, wear layers. And I think it was last season, we had some really stormy weather at the beginning of the season, and I did get some reports from surveyors that were miserable. So rain gear is good. Always check the forecast before you go out, you know, and safety first too. If we're having lightning storms, don't go out that day. Please try to reschedule your survey for a different day. So definitely it's good to take those things into consideration as well before you go out on a survey. I like to be prepared for everything. Check the tides, check the weather, just make sure that you're safe. And dress warmly. Okay, there's a question regarding conducting surveys in the morning versus in the evening. So this we've really got this guidance from WDFW. They do all of their population surveys in the morning. And so it's really just a way for us to standardize our survey so that we're always doing it the same way and at the same time. There may be higher activity again in the evening before the sun goes down, but by doing it in the morning every time, we're still going to get a wide range of activity. We do see, you know, a lot of people come to us and say we see a lot more activity on the high tides. So maybe we should do it at the high tides, but we don't want to be looking just at one condition. So by always surveying in the morning, that part of the survey is standardized, and then we're able to collect data, you know, regardless of the tides and what they're doing. And we're also in line with what WDFW has always done. So it's just a way to standardize and control what we're doing, remove a variable.
I'm reading something here on the chat about the borough IDs.
Yeah.
That's up to you and your colony and your team if you want to label them just with numbers, or at Double Bluff we have them in sections. A section has however many boroughs are in A section, B section, C and D and E. So
Right. It is important though to each colony will have a borough map. So it is important that you're using the same borough numbers as everyone else so that you're not recording different borough IDs for the same borough. So usually if you're a sub or you're coming to a new colony, they should have a borough map for you or explain how the boroughs are numbered. And as Govinda was saying, the colony usually decides how they're going to number the boroughs. Sometimes people use the same numbers every year, and some people number them as they become active. But I think it's more going towards everyone has a borough map where the boroughs are numbered.
And this last question about coordinating.
Oh.
I'm a little slightly confused, but I will say that if it's the same colony, you do need to coordinate the colony. But if it's just a beach, then that sounds like it's a different colony, and maybe that question could go to your regional lead, perhaps.
Right. I think that's very colony specific. And some colonies, you have a lot of intermingling, even though you have different observation points, the birds are intermingling. And so when you do a population count, everybody needs to be counting at the same time. Otherwise, your numbers will be all over. And you can't just add them together if you do them at different times, because you may be double counting birds, the same birds. So it does need to be coordinated, which I know is tough. It's tough, especially for the bigger colonies, to get everybody there at the same time. That's definitely one of our challenges, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is Mary, and I presented that question. So we're on Anderson Island, and like down at Andy's Marine Park, there's three
Hi,
different. Hi.
Good to see you.
Three completely separate areas, but the same trail you get down to the beach. But the colonies don't like we don't have a system to say those are your birds and these are mine, because they're pretty good about staying separate from each other. But in the past,
tricky.
we used to always monitor it, just, you know, like I've been monitoring down there for years, and I would go I knew between the hours of 6 and 9, I needed to have the full survey done, but I didn't have to coordinate with people who were completely down the beach at a different site. We didn't have to make sure we went at the same time. And now recently it's been where we all three colonies we have to make sure that we have a day, the tide has to be right, and the 3 different people have to have it available on their schedule, and it just makes it tougher. So I didn't know if there was some reason for it. That would be great. I didn't know if that was just like trying to make sure we're safe or whatever, but it's a super safe beach. So
right. I think Andy's is kind of a gray area, because I know what you mean. The 3 sites do have some separation, but there is a little bit of intermingling between the birds. So it's one of those colonies that's kind of right on the edge. And I think we just had to make an executive decision to count them all at the same time. Definitely makes it a little trickier. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And as for the next question with numbering the boroughs, we try to just do a clean slate every year. Every new summer, it's a new numbering system. And a lot of that reason is because we have a lot of sloughing in the winter here. And so some colonies are just, they shrink down and the birds just move down the reach. We certainly have some boroughs like the apartment, which are one borough kind of in one spot and then another borough just below it, that we just anecdotally talk about, but technically, it's just new numbering system every year. And
That's
I suppose if you can and if you want to, you could keep the same number. You know, like I know at Mutiny Sands, I don't know, borough number 12 tends to be kind of a lower borough that's very popular and it's always going to be used every year. So, you know, I don't think there's any harm in keeping the numbering system, but don't go crazy over trying to remember which numbers. Technically, it's just kind of a new season and a new numbering system. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, the beach or the bluff is pretty dynamic, so it does change a lot. We have had several people ask about doing some kind of analyses looking at specific borough use year to year, but that would just be a whole new level of analyses that would be pretty tough for us to do, considering how dynamic the bluff is.
Yeah, and I would just add that, you know, we do want to compare, you know, years to colonies from years prior, but we're doing that kind of colony wide as opposed to borough by borough.
Yeah, most regions keep site maps from year to year. I know down in the South Sound we do that. So we kind of visually check it out from every year to see how the bluffs are changing. But it would get pretty complicated to try to track all of the boroughs from year to year. It would be interesting though. If we are unable to survey on our regular survey day, I am a solo surveyor. Can I survey on another day on the same week? So we try to survey the same day every week, or we encourage people to. Sometimes it's just not possible. And so you can shift your survey day by a few days here and there. Sometimes the tide is just too high. You know, the tide is usually different every other week or every week. You'll have a high tide one week, a low tide the next week. So on those high tide weeks, it can be pretty tough and you just have to do the best you can. I would say try to get as close to 7 days apart as you can. But it's just not always possible. So, and then also if you have some weather condition that's going to keep you from being out there, you can change it. And then also sometimes the surveyors just aren't available. So we do the best we can. Okay, Lynn's asking if the regional lead people enter survey 123 data or does WDFW? So the data is entered by the surveyors. And we do have one region where the regional lead is doing the data entry for everyone. That's not typical. Usually there's one person from each colony that is sort of designated as the data responsible person. And they're the ones that compile the final data sheet and they're the ones who enter it into survey 123. And then each region does its own quality control after that to make sure that the database matches the data sheet. So we're doing the work and WDFW is storing our data
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Hopefully I haven't missed anyone with a raised hand. There are a lot of folks in here, so I'm not sure if all of the hands are coming to the surface. Did we miss anybody in the chat? Well, we are at exactly 8 p.m. So I think that we did a really good job there. So if we don't have any other questions, thank you so much. Oh, the data entry training. Oh, thank you. I meant to show this slide. So the data entry training will be next Wednesday, the 21st at 7 p.m. So the same time next Wednesday will be the data entry training. I'll put this in the chat. And if you are a data responsible person, hopefully you already know this. And we will be sending out reminders with the meeting links to those folks who have been designated as data entry responsible people. And if you're not sure, please ask your regional lead. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate everything you're doing for our survey and for the Guillemots. It's a huge task, a huge undertaking, but we're really proud to have all of these regions working together on this project. And also a huge thank you to all of the sponsors of the region, to Whidbey Audubon and all of the other sponsors of the different regions. We appreciate everyone's role in making this survey successful. We'll see you all later.